2 weeks ago, Google quietly published a paper that most people scrolled past. It described a new AI model called MoGen that generates synthetic neurons. Not neurons inspired by biology, not neurons as a metaphor, actual machine-made replicas of brain cells built from scratch, statistically accurate enough that other AI systems use them as stand-ins for the real thing.
So hold up, actual machine-made replicas of brain cells made from scratch? You know what word comes to my mind when it comes to stuff like this? Presumptuous, when one fails to observe their limits. It's like walking to someone's house and thinking you own the place. You a guest, bruh. Sit down, be respectful. Don't go overboard, bruh. This is starting to become a lot more intrusive. Y'all doing way too much.
And Google is using these synthetic neurons to train AI to decode the real brain faster. Yes, an AI is now making fake neurons to help other AIs understand real ones. This is not the beginning of AI brain research. It's not even close to the beginning. Google has been mapping the human brain with AI for over a decade. The goal is a complete wiring diagram of the brain. Every neuron, every connection, every pathway, traced and documented. Scientists call this a connectome.
Sometimes I like to just take a step back and observe and try to figure out what the motivations are when it comes to stuff like this. Like, why in the world would Google be so interested about mapping the brain? And you know the crazy thing about this? They've been doing it for 10 years. So they've been technically doing it on the low, because I haven't heard of it, and neither have you, I'm sure. They're probably trying to get AI so advanced that it literally thinks like us. That's crazy, man. That's absurd.
The process begins by slicing brain tissue into layers thinner than 1,000th of a hair strand, imaging each slice with a high-speed electron microscope, then stacking thousands of those images and using AI to reconstruct 3D neurons hidden inside. Every branch, every connection, every place two neurons touch. And even the researchers who built it describe it as just the beginning.
When I see a corporation do heavy research when it comes to the human brain, it can either go two ways. It's a two-way street. The first way is like, yo, we're trying to advance our AI by doing thorough research on the human mind because we're trying to get our AI models to the level that it thinks like an actual human being. And usually that way results for profit. The other way is maybe they're just trying to make an AI model that's for the better good of humanity. But let's be honest, it's Google, bruh. It's about the money, man. Come on.
Because a mouse brain is 1,000 times larger than a fruit fly brain, and a human brain is 1,000 times larger than a mouse brain. To put that in terms that land properly, if completing the fruit fly connectome took years with the best available AI, completing a full human brain connectome by the same methods would take longer than recorded human history has existed. That is the gap Google's AI is trying to close. That is what MoGen is about.
So based on what I know, it took them a significant amount of time to be able to map the brain of a fruit fly. And they're trying to work their way up to a mouse/rat and then all the way up to the human brain. That's crazy, man. If it takes you that much time, decades, to map the brain of a fruit fly, Google, it's not worth it. Not only is it gonna take a lot of time, but it's gonna take a lot, this is where I'll convince you, it's gonna take a lot of money. It's gonna tap into your bottom line. And you know you guys wanna defend that, right? It's not worth it, man. Just abort the mission.
To train an AI to reconstruct neurons accurately from microscope images, you need enormous amounts of labeled training data. Real neurons, annotated by experts, verified by human proofreaders. This process is called Connectomics reconstruction, and it is brutally slow. Every error, a split where two connected nutrites get treated as separate, or a merge where two unrelated nutrites get combined, has to be caught and corrected by hand. By researchers, by graduate students, by technical specialists sitting in front of screens, tracing microscope images pixel by pixel.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of when Elon Musk says we're gonna be multi-planetary species. We're gonna be able to live on Earth, obviously, and be able to live on Mars. The idea of it sounds amazing. It sounds, oh my god, that's so cool, right? But in actuality, the likelihood of that happening is probably like maybe 2%, and not even in our lifetimes. So when I look at this, it's the exact same thing. To be able to have an AI model be as advanced to think like a human being, might as well act like a human being, it's a very slim chance. Google is just basically betting on hope. That's just all that it is.
Google's Pathfinder model is the current AI doing this reconstruction work, and it makes errors. Not many, relative to what came before, But at the scale of a complete mouse brain, even a small error rate translates into a staggering amount of human correction time. Here is where the story stops being about neuroscience and starts being about something you should care about personally.
Dang, man. If a small error appears on the mouse brain, it takes a significant amount of time for humans to fix that error. So basically, I presume when you take a small brain and you basically scale it to like the human size, the reality is there's probably gonna be a lot of errors that are gonna appear, which means more time, significant amount of time to fix every single one of those errors each. That's nothing but a headache, man.
The same year Google and Harvard published their Connectome paper, researchers at the University of Texas at Austin published something in Nature Neuroscience that received specifically less coverage. They built an AI system called a semantic decoder. You put someone in an fMRI scanner, the scanner reads their brain activity, the AI translates that brain activity into text. Not just a word, not a category, continuous language, paragraphs, the gist of what the person is hearing or reading or imagining, generated in real time from blood flow patterns in the brain.
Oh nah, man, that's invasion of privacy. You violating people's rights at that point. Being able to take people's intrusive thoughts and convert it into words and being able to read it and see what they were thinking? Nah, bro, I cannot fade that, bro. I got some intrusive thoughts I cannot control. What if I walk by a bank and then I end up stopping by the MRI? I was walking by a bank, I was thinking of robbing that bank, but it was just in my head. I'm like, damn, it must be nice to have $1 million or gazillion dollars. And now they're gonna be able to detect that and see what I was thinking during that moment. No, bro, no. I need my privacy, and so do you guys. Well, I don't stand with this at all, man. That's dead.
This is not mind reading in the science fiction sense. It is something more specific and in some ways more unsettling. It is a system that can take the physical activity of neurons inside your skull and convert it into the idea those neurons are representing. And then, in 2025, a separate research group published Brain LLM, a system that integrates brain recordings directly with a large language model to generate natural language output from fMRI signals. It performed best on text that was unexpected, text that standard AI alone could not predict, meaning the brain signals were adding information the AI did not already have.
You know, based off this, it reminds me of that movie Gemini by Will Smith, where he basically tried to battle his younger self, which makes it really difficult because his younger self knows how he thinks, he knows how he feels. That's literally what these LLMs are starting to become. They're trying to get them so advanced to a level that, yo, like if we decided to stop them, it'll be impossible, man. When they say AI taking over, yo, they literally mean AI is taking over.
The brain was contributing something genuinely new, meaning the decoder was actually reading something. Not perfectly, not yet outside a laboratory, not without hours of training on a specific individual. But the direction is clear, and in this field, direction is everything. The semantic decoder needs an fMRI scanner, a machine the size of a room, millions of dollars, 15 hours of training on a specific individual lying perfectly still. It cannot work outside a laboratory. It cannot work without consent and cooperation. Right now, in 2026, you cannot be mind-read against your will with this technology. Right now.
Of course not, silly. The technology's not that advanced yet, but it's becoming more advanced. So the next time you about to get an MRI scan or one of your family members, I want you to think of this specific moment of the video right now. Be like, damn, they could be collecting data. They could be reading my intrusive thoughts without my permission. And you know, when it comes to corporations, they're always gonna try to find a loophole. Oh, the law says we can't do this, this, and that, but it didn't say that we can do this. Of course they're gonna exploit it. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man.
The neurotechnology market is growing from $9.8 billion in 2022 to a projected $17.1 billion in 2026. Major technology companies are embedding neural sensors into earbuds, wristbands, and augmented reality headsets. Meta, Apple, Sony, and Microsoft are all actively collecting biometric data through customer devices already in use. Some of their privacy policies contain language so broad that it could encompass neural data from AR headsets without the user realizing it.
This is just my assumption, but I think the reason why some of their privacy policies contain language so broad is because if they specifically specified what they're gonna do with your data, biometric data, any data that stems from you, it's gonna cause a lot of problems, especially if you're against of what they're doing with your data. So instead of facing potential backlash and possibly the government stepping in and regulating them, They rather just keep the language broad. That way you can interpret it, and that way the next person, they can interpret it differently, but there's nothing concrete that can exactly specify what they're gonna do with your data. There's no written document that you can read and be like, oh, it's exactly what they're gonna do with your data. Just an assumption though.
The data those devices collect, data about your brain states, your attention, your emotional responses, your moments of vulnerability and decision fatigue, is legally owned by the companies collecting it. And as AI gets better at decoding what that data means, the companies holding it get access to something that has no precedent in human history. A statistical model of how your brain works, built from your brain, owned by someone else.
Companies collecting data from us is nothing really new, but the reasons as to why they collect data from us can always change. In a lot of cases, not all cases, but I would like to give the benefit of the doubt and say that they're basically trying to accommodate the consumer by probably making products that better suit their needs. But in reality, it's probably not the case. This brain stuff got me feeling really skeptical.
The market is already worth nearly $10 billion and growing fast. The sensors are already in consumer products. The AI capable of decoding what those sensors capture is already published in peer-reviewed journals. The infrastructure for reading minds at scale exists. What does not yet exist is the legal framework to decide who those minds belong to.
The only way for a legal framework to be implemented is through government intervention. And for the government to intervene, it has to actually deem it as something that is consequential, the government itself. And there's only so many ways you could be able to convince the government that this is an actual problem. I don't really got any solutions, but if you got some solutions, let me know what those solutions are down in the comment section below, man. But that's about it, man. Peace and love. I'll see y'all next time.